Hi everyone, Nadine Briggs here from Simply Social Kids. It's about the time of year, around mid-October, when parent-teacher conferences are starting to be scheduled. And that changes depending on where you live, but generally about this time of year, even though it just feels like the school year got started, parents and teachers meet and figure out how are the kids doing and is there anything that needs to be changed and what sorts of struggles might they be having that need to be addressed early on in the school year. So I wanted to share with you just 6 tips for preparing for that parent-teacher conference, specifically around social skills. Obviously, academics are incredibly important, and that's a huge focus of these, especially coming off of last year where a lot of kids didn't do as well academically as they normally would have, given all the issues that they had to deal with the pandemic, which we have another video about that. But in terms of figuring out how is your child doing socially this year, there's just a few questions that I thought might be helpful for you to ask during your parent-teacher conference. First of all is just kind of what's the child's demeanor in the classroom? You know, looking for things that are really different from previous years. So if they were typically the class clown, now they're more on the shy side, or they're more on the shy side and now they're the class clown. Just looking for how are they coming across to the other kids, you know, in the classroom, and just seeing if it's something that feels off to you, so you can see if maybe there's something going on there. If there's ever a time when there's group work, so it's kind of tip number 2, if there's ever a time when there's group work, are they being selected for that group work? Are they always the last one to be picked? Or what is the process for the teacher to divvy up the kids into different groups if they're going to be doing group work? Because not all of them say, pick your own partner. Sometimes teachers will select partners for them, and how that's going. And they can tell things. Teachers see a lot of different stuff. They might see things like maybe eye rolls if someone gets assigned to their group. Those are the types of things we want to watch for socially with kids. The third one is to check in on impulsivity. A lot of the kids who have social difficulty have impulsivity. So maybe finding out from the teacher, what sorts of impulsivity issues have they noticed this school year? And you can kind of decide if it was more or less than you saw last year. Are they feeling maybe more anxious? Because sometimes the impulsivity and some of the acting out happens if children are more anxious. And so are they really settling into the class and with the other kids is kind of something else that we want to know. The fourth thing is if your child hasn't been tested and maybe you have some, inklings that maybe something's going on in terms of like an ADHD or distractibility or maybe a learning disability or something, is let the teacher know that you're really open to hearing their honest opinion about that. I know some teachers might be a little reluctant to share that because they don't know how that's going to be received by the parents. So they're a little leery about that. And sometimes in terms of like testing, there can also sometimes, unfortunately, be some administrative pressure around testing where teachers might get some flack if they recommend a child for some special testing. So just letting them know that you really want to know the open and honest opinion of how they're doing, because you just really want to help them socially. Kind of gives them that freedom to really just tell you exactly how things are going. So the fifth one is, I know, pretty obvious one, like, are they creating any new friendships? Is there anybody that they're gravitating toward? And does the teacher feel that your child is gravitating toward kids who have friend potential for them? Or maybe there's kids that your teacher's thinking, they keep going to this one group of kids, they're keep getting rejected by that group of kids. I really think they ought to focus their attention maybe to a different group of kids. That's something that's really good to know, because sometimes kids have this idea that they want to be with a certain group and they're just not fitting in there, but they keep trying, and it just doesn't end well. And meanwhile, they're not forming the strong friendships, and they might even be annoying the kids who they're trying to connect with if those kids do not want to connect with that person. So it's kind of common. I see it quite often. So something just to kind of keep an eye on about that. If your child is still in elementary school, check in and see how they're doing at recess. Now, your teacher's probably not going to know and probably hasn't observed your child at recess, but maybe just ask and say, is there somebody else I could ask? Maybe there's a recess aide, or maybe the school counselor gets out there every once in a while to check things out, or maybe if there is a concern at recess, one of those people or somebody from the school could kind of go out on the recess play yard and just see what's going on there. What are some of the issues? Are they wandering alone? Are they having difficulty? Those types of things that they can get supports and maybe be added into a lunch bunch or something like that. So a lot of the time parent-teacher conferences can be a little pressure filled because it's like speed dating. You don't have a lot of time with that teacher. So if you have more questions than you're able to cover off on during that parent-teacher conference, just ask them if you can schedule some extra time to really delve into some things and maybe even follow up with your child at home prior to that second meeting if you feel that you need more time. And just the other tip in terms of how your child is doing that I frequently talk about is using like a 1 to 10 scale with your child, and just, it's kind of, how was your day today? How happy were you today at school on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being it was really crummy to 10 being it was amazing. Kind of where are you on that 1 to 10 scale? The number in and of itself isn't that important unless it's below a 5. I'd be a little concerned about that and think there is something really wrong. But if it's in the 6 to 10 range, it's more, does it change? So if they're always an 8 and all of a sudden they're a 7, you just ask, well, geez, usually an 8, and then what happened to drop you down to a 7? And that can help you as a parent get a sense of where is your child and how are they doing, and what were the causes of increases on that scale and also of decreases. So just a couple of tips, or six or so tips to help you kind of prepare for that parent-teacher conference from a social standpoint, just to make sure your child is really settling into the school year and to the kids that they're with. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please hit the like button and hit subscribe to hear more from us. Thanks so much for listening.